So the first part of this session, we'll be discussing some of the incident reporting system. And just as a bit of context, around this time last year, at British Orienteering, we identified the need for improvement in terms of safety across the board, and also bring in some of our members and some of the expert knowledge that you all have alongside British Orienteering staff as well. And the initial first step that we took in that is bringing together the incident reporting system into a digital format. So the new incident reporting system now works in parallel to the previous system of the downloadable form that would be handwritten at an event and sent in. We now encourage that you can do either option. And I still receive many handwritten forms, usually from multi-day events where they come in bulk. I'll receive an email with about 20 of them. These are the questions really from the session that we'll be going through. And hopefully by the end, everything should be answered. And what we're aiming to achieve with the system is to be able to have a place where all the data is collected centrally, without having parallel paper copies as well. From there, what we'll be able to do is actually, in this short presentation, I'll show you some of the outcomes that we have, including the data that we can gain from this as well, and how that's going to move forward and be visible for members as well going on. So initially, I'm going to briefly demo the reporting form. So now that should have changed to the British Orienteering website. And I'm crossing my fingers, I might need another thumbs up for that one.
Yep.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So the instant reporting form can be found at the moment on all the pages on the British Orienteering website. And that is by scrolling to the bottom in this bar here with all the links we have. And within the About Us section on the right, we have report a safeguarding or safety concern. And from here, we have the joint page with the safeguarding section and the safety working together in parallel, with the blue button that takes you directly to the incident reporting form. Now, the incident reporting form, I won't be filling this out, but I will be running through this. I won't be taking the live result of what I've popped in, because I've got the some of this data prepared that's already been anonymised and fiddled with, and some of it's fictionalised as well. So importantly, the incident reporting form is not just something that your event organiser would do. The incident reporting form is available on the homepage and on all the pages for an important reason, and that is that all members at any time should be comfortable and be able to report an incident. And when we say an incident, we're not talking about just a trip or a fall. We're talking about all the options available here. Near misses are important because for every near miss could be the same thing happening in the future. We have accidents and injuries, safeguarding as well, access and environmental issues, which are another important thing that people are quite often in touch with us about, but being able to report any incidents regarding this just is able to flag to us what is going on, and then we can see to help you out on that front proactively. Incidents of violence and aggression, and criminal activity and damage as well. Now, instant reporting, the reporting part is perhaps seen as a bit of a dirty word. It's not reporting, it's more informing. It's informing us at British Orienteering about things that are happening that could potentially endanger people or put them at risk. It's very important to us that at the moment, no incident is too small. If you have a near miss, slipping on some ice, potentially colliding with something, that is important information. These are things that whilst we can't remove ice as a whole, there are still some very important things that we can take from this. Now, the incident form that we have here on the demo is all digitized. All of the data that is received can only be viewed by the select people at British Orienteering. When this data then is taken to the safety advisory group later on, that is all anonymised. None of the data safety advisory group will be able to see personal data. They will see the key points of information, the cause of an injury, the area. The option here, upload a photo, won't be shared as well. And the most important part of this form, really the message that I can give you is no incident is too little, and as much information as you're happy to give and can give is absolutely brilliant. All the drop-down lists are available. In terms of location as well, if you are using this on mobile, you click onto location. As you can see, I'm in Chesterfield at the moment. You're able to search for location on the map. If this incident was to happen, Queen's Park, with the search button, it'll drag the marker straight. It'll pop the marker straight away where you want it to be. If it's a little bit wrong, and perhaps I want it to be Regent's Park, that can be dragged. The set location button, an exact pin can be put on where it is, and with it being a precise pin as well, if you have the information of where specifically on a course this is, that can then also be taken to, that also can give us the information on that front. All the further information on the form is very important. Follow-up action required, witnesses and details, first aid given and details. And then report incidents is the button that is pressed. And then flicking back to the PowerPoint, the incident form will then be sent over to us at British Orienteering. And this is an example of the data that we can see from the initial dashboard. So as you'll see, my very aptly named clubs of BOF and then the alphabet in order. We can see the reported date and times. The only people at British Orienteering who will be reading the incident reviews would be the primary contact that could be allocated by staff. So as you can see, I'm very popular on this one, but as soon as it turns to an incident of violence and aggression, I'm giving it straight over to Peter Brook. Any information that is then able to be added, if we do come forward, there is an option to then add additional information from our end if we can help with that. And the incident reporting system will show us what information that we have going on. So random numbers put into the incident reporting system at the top, but we're able to actually triage them, see what is ongoing, most importantly, see the urgent stuff, and then close off the incidents when they've been handled. And all the information there is then shared with insurers as necessary. So what can we learn from this data? It's all well and good that I'm coming to you and asking, can you please use this fancy new online form? Well, the opportunity that we have and we're beginning to use is actually to be able to collect the data from the incidents. Now, this isn't your personal data. None of that will be used, and all the information is anonymized. But actually, some of the initial statistics that you can pull can give you a lot of insight as well. So in terms of areas of injuries reported, primarily looking at arms and legs, well, to be expected, if they're slips and trips, which are the most common injuries usually, then you're either tripping on something and possibly hurting a leg, or, as is instinct, putting an arm out to try and stop yourself and usually hurting yourself there. And as well on this side, by injury type, we're looking at trips and slips and then cuts as well. Usually one can lead to the other, but these are just basic data points that we're going at the moment. And for example, the incidents that we see across the time, you can see that when we do have a major event and we have a lot of incident reports that come in all at once, that is not an indication that this major event has had some kind of catastrophe. It's just that we've had a large bulk mass of incidents reported, and that data is absolutely invaluable to us at this point. And also we can find as well from the specific formats for orienteering, there's a lot more insight that we can get from the reporting forms, depending on how much information is put in. So obviously the forest events are the most reported on at the moment. And we can see from there as well that whilst other training sessions and sprint events are also on there, urbans are seeing a lot of incidents as well in the grand scheme of things. When I say a lot, I say in terms of the total report incident at this time, but the forest events really are where we're seeing the bulk of the injuries. Now, again, that data is just initial insights. This is from a short selection of data, and this has been done entirely by just myself at this point brainstorming what could be interesting to find out. But it's more looking to the future of what we can do. So data-driven information to share with our members, what we're looking at is actually okay, the outcome to yourself, the members, the clubs. If we do have any trends that we can identify, we have opportunities to reach out to clubs if it's from a larger event and say, thank you for all the information. What have you done since then? Or have there been anything that you noticed at the event? Was there a control that was located somewhere particularly with a particularly large amount of sharper branches? Was there something that went on? Was there adverse weather conditions? This is in no way looking to go to a club and say, slap them on the wrists and this has been wrong. But actually, it's more just an opportunity to work with clubs and see, actually, if you've had a positive learning from this event, despite there being a couple of incidents that have happened during, actually, we can share that with the wider membership base. If there's an issue at an event that happens in Plymouth, then why aren't we sharing it with events that are happening all the way up in Scotland if it can help prevent injuries? Safety news flashes directly on the website is something that we'd be able to put out as well, even if it's just weather warnings with some advice, or it could be that there's been a large number of tick bites reported at an event. And actually, what we want to be able to do with that then is say, okay, well, we've seen many tick bites reported. What can we provide back to you in order to prevent these issues? Is it through the form of an e-learning course, not just about tick bites, but maybe about a few other things as well? Could it be through webinars? We could bring in experts on subject matter and what are these common injury risks? Are we seeing particularly high number of knee injuries? Are we recommending equipment? Are there issues with people when we have extreme weather conditions? So are we recommending that runners should be taking a camelback or something similar with them as they go? There's an awful lot that we can do at the moment, and the information that is provided by our clubs, once again, isn't reporting, it's informing. This is in no way meant to be something that should scare clubs, or in no way that you should feel uncomfortable sharing the data. All the data, as I said before, it all comes in. It's all anonymised at base, and British Orienteering staff are the only ones assigned to the case that can see the information that you're giving in. And then it just becomes the safety advisory group. We have a number of incidents that occur. The more data that we can collect, if you scrape a knee, it's still worth reporting if the reason that you scraped the knee is the same reason that 10 other people have scraped the knee as we go. And I'm hugely grateful for the amount of incident reports that we've had since the launch of the new system. Now we're coming up to just about a year, and it's been hugely beneficial to actually be able to see what we can do to help you as members. So that should be the end of my slides. No, I added this one earlier. I nearly forgot. In terms of the future, what I've taken this from the British Mountaineering Council's website, as they're a little bit further ahead with their system. But actually, what they now do is publish all the incident reports fully anonymised, and you can see that on the website as you go. This is something that we could also look to do as well. The transparency for us from an insurance standpoint, and for the members to see actually if the weather conditions on the prior day to an event have been a bit dodgy and caused something, then that should be visible and help inform you going forwards on what we have, including the causes and whether there's injury. And you'll note on a lot of these, no injury is a very common thing listed. So again, near misses can prevent future incidents. I'll now end this presentation, but then start the other one because I'll be handing over to Tim, who's going to speak a little bit more on the topic. Although I can't see his camera. I think he is there. Is that right, Tim?
Well, yes, I got logged out for a while, but I think I'm back.
No problem.
Right. So Joe is talking about how to collect the data, and that's obviously a very important step. What I'm going to do is to take you through what you can do with data. So 2019, I analysed all the first aid reports from the Scottish 6 Days and produced a survey including injury rates associated with the Scottish 6 Days. So that was 6 days of competition, and I did it by day. And I returned to the fray at the last Scottish 6 Days, the 2025 one, where again I got given the anonymised first aid information, right? And I've analysed the first aid information to draw, well, so that people can now see what is going on. The first thing I would say, by the way, is that a comparison between the 2019 and the 2025 injury performance showed that there was a substantial drop in the number of serious injuries between 2019 and 2025. I can't explain that, but the number of serious injuries was roughly the same as in 2023 this time round. In all honesty, I thought that it would be more like the 2019 because of similarities of terrain, fairly rough terrain for the D side 6 days. Joe, can you show the first slide? Right, so here's the provisos, or just giving you the context. The data is based entirely upon the first aid treatment and the diagnosis from each of the 5 days. Remember, between 2019 and 2025, it's 5 forest days now, not 6. And the conclusion was that there's a slight increase in the rate of first aid treatment cases between the two sets of data. By the way, the 2019 data was very similar to the injury rates that came from the Orienteering survey done in the 1990s, right? But the problem with looking at first aid cases is that there's a sort of variability as to when people go to the first aid tent. My theory is it's to do with where the first aid tents are located in relation to the finish and download. If it's very convenient, if somebody's got a bit of a scratch, they might guess and say, well, rather go back to my car and sort myself out, I'll go to the first aid tent. And that is backed up in 2019 because we had about 30 or 40 first aid cases a day, except on the last day where we had 3, right? And that was more to do with people sort of saying, oh, well, I need to get in the car and go home. So they didn't bother going to the first aid tent, right? But the key point here was that came through, the rate of significant injuries was roughly half in 2025 than it was in 2019. Now, this is subjective. It's subjective because they have to take a decision of what is a significant injury and what isn't. So the significant injury I said was a significant injury was one where the orienteer would not be able to return to the forest the next day to carry on orienteering, right? So at least 1 day out, and most of them actually were probably several weeks out. So mainly fractures or likely fractures, because the first aid analysis frequently is that is a likely fracture. We recommend the person goes to hospital. They don't know for certain, right? But the interesting fact was that the numbers were down by roughly 50% from what they were in 2019. Why is that an improvement? I don't know if that's statistically significant yet. Right, come in, next slide, please. Joe, next slide. That's right, thanks. So here we have it, that this is a breakdown between some fairly arbitrary categories, right? So looking for the serious ones, fractures, and I put in brackets, possible 6. So slightly more than 1 a day for one competition day, roughly 2,600, 2,700 people participating every day. So that gives you a rough feel for what the injury rate is for the more serious ones. Cuts is the next one, and then you've got grazes. Insect bites, wasp and insect bites was relatively high. Tick removal was also relatively high. But effectively, the ones that fell into the significant category were the fractures, and they're the ones of particular interest, right? So that came down substantially. Next slide, please, Joe. Right. I thought this time it would be quite interesting to see what the relative injury rates were for the different age categories. Right. So under 21s, 21 to 39 and greater than 69 were roughly the same, whereas the age categories between those were lower. Right. Again, is that significant? I don't know just yet. We will repeat this at future events when I can get hold of the data and see if that is showing up as being significant. Right. And the last one, Joe, I think I took the 6 significant injuries and I again took the age categories there. Now, again, I wouldn't claim this is statistically significant, but it's showing that the 22 to 39 age category is a fair bit higher than the others. I was a bit surprised that the greater than 69s didn't have more injuries in it, more significant injuries, but that's what it showed up. Right. So this is giving you a rough feel of some of the information you can. This is just general information without asking specifically for what is the learning from it. I agree entirely with what Joe said, that the more information we get, in particular, if we can ask people what is the learning to be gained from their injury. It might be obvious and there's no learning, that's fine. But if there's a particular factor that we need to take into account, then we can recycle that. We can provide that information to future events so that they can do something about it. Right? I think that's the last of the slides, is it, Joe? Right. The other comment I would make to you about, and this became apparent as the week of the 6 days went on. The 6 days last year used what I would call hybrid finishing. They had an induction system whereby people with SIA dibbers could run hard all the way to the line and cross the line at speed, because as they crossed it, the fact they were finishing was registered on their SIA dibber. Right? Fine. However, people who didn't have SIA dibbers, obviously you want to put the finish box directly over the line, as close as possible to the line, so they're not disadvantaged. And that in turn meant that we ended up with people stationary punching the finish box while other people were coming at them at probably somewhere between 10 and 15 miles an hour, right? And hell-bent on winning their club running competition or whatever else it was. And so you've got this mixture of people, some people stationary and somebody who's just manually finished might then just wander across to the download, and if they could, they could easily walk straight across the path of people coming in fast. So this became apparent because there were a number of I've witnessed people having to take evasive action just as people were finishing. And I was wondering about it, and then we got to the last 2 days where there was a world ranking event, and I saw the solution, which is that for a world ranking event, they have to put up tape to segregate the world ranking event competitors from the rest, right? Presumably because they're finishing particularly fast and they don't want them bumping into anybody. And therefore it crossed my mind that actually the solution may well be in future big events that we have a slow finish lane and a fast finish lane. The fast finish lane for the people who've got running competitions and want to do something that way. So you can actually, by looking at these sort of potential, these near misses, because they were near misses that I witnessed, start to think about how you can improve the safety of these things. And yeah, okay, that'll be there. But the warnings in this are also should also be taken on board for anybody who's organizing an event where you do have a narrow run-in, because you do have people moving at substantially different speeds. And people are very focused on getting to the finish at that point, and there could be collisions. Right. Okay, Joe, that's everything I've got to say.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Tim. We've got a bit of time now for some questions, as I managed to avoid running us too far over. So if you do have any questions, feel free to use the raise hand or pop them in the chat. I think Scottish 6 days data or incident reporting. And I'll give you a quick moment for that.
And if you're not yet in Menti ready for the second half of the presentation, the link's in the chat. If you click on it, it should take you there, straight there, or go to menti.com and put in the code that's in the chat.
And are we supposed to use that on our mobiles or on our laptops?
Either. If you go to menti.com on a mobile, that should work, or if you click the link, it should open it on a laptop or a PC.
It's asking me, have I managed to connect? Yes,
Yeah,
no, who knows?
yeah, it's just a test slide to make sure that people had something to
I see.
to answer whilst we're getting going.
Got it. Thank you.
So I'll hand over to Karen now. If you do have any questions, feel free to still pop them in the chat, and Tim and I can catch those at the end. But Karen, if you'd like to share your slides, then
Yeah,
I'll hand over.
just going there. Has that appeared?
I can see the Teams window and the presenter view one.
Okay, so there should be a Menti slide showing.
Not at the moment.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's go back to the Menti slide. Is the Menti slide showing now?
Not that I can see.
Right, let me stop sharing and go back in and make sure that I have shared the full screen. Entire screen.
There we go.
Right, okay. Let me just hide the thing that's popped up in front of it. Right, okay, so that's pretty good. We've got 27 people online and 24 of them already in Menti, so we'll call that a win. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to look at the need for dynamic risk assessment. So what happens when you arrive either to plan an event or to set up an event or to start an event, and you're faced by something that wasn't on the map or wasn't in the original plan. So I've got a dozen unanticipated scenarios that faced officials either in the run-up to or on the day of the event. We're going to use a Menti poll for people to say, how confident are you that this event can go ahead safely, with the addition of whatever appropriate controls you think are needed. And then when you've voted, I'm going to reveal what the event officials actually did. So they are real life case studies. So here's the first one. Here be axe throwers. The planners arrived morning of the event to discover that despite them having land permission that covered the whole of the area, there was an axe throwing lesson being set up in this field. And you can see that this field actually has a leg of a blue course, as it was, going straight through it. We switch to the Menti. There. Don't know what's going on there. That's not my my one that I want. That's my one that I want. Hopefully on your Menti, that's now showing you that picture, and you have an ability to put in a, well done, whoever that is, put in an answer on a scale of 0 to 10, how confident you are that this event can go ahead safely, or that you can put in appropriate controls to allow it to go ahead safely. Okay, I can see we've got the votes from 17 people in already, and the nice blue shape in the background tells us roughly what the distribution of those answers is. It's rather nice. Okay, seems to have slowed down now. So, yep, everybody's reasonably confident that they could put something in place to still hold this event successfully. So let's go back and look at the what happened. The event officials agreed with you. It went ahead. They marked up every single map of that blue course to remove the legs that were going across the affected field. And they obviously put signage up at the start explaining why they'd done that. Okay, next one. Here be forecasts of high winds. So there'd been a period of prolonged rain, and the forecast now includes winds gusting to 60 miles per hour overnight and into the morning of the event. What do we reckon about this event? Okay, so much less confident for this one. In fact, almost everybody's probably cancelling. Look at what happened. Yep, we cancelled. So the period of heavy rain meant the ground was already saturated. That increases the risk of falling trees. 60 miles an hour is definitely a storm force wind, likely to uproot trees. And we were entirely right to cancel. The wind actually really did knock over trees all the way up one of the valleys in that area overnight. Next one. Here be men dressed only in their socks. So the story of this one, a club official was approached by a member of the local police force in the car park of an event to ask whether they knew that a nearby section of woodland where the next event was being planned was frequently being used for alfresco sexual activity, that it really wouldn't be appropriate for juniors to witness. So we're talking about this next event now, the one that's going to take place in the section of woodland where we know there's a problem. Right, much bigger spread of opinion this time. So what actually happened? The event did go ahead, but some serious checking with the local police about the exact location and timing of the activity that they knew about turned out to be on the scarp slope down towards the road. So we reworked all of the courses to avoid them going through that area, because we do have under 16s who run on all of our courses at a local event. And we posted prominent event here on Saturday notices all along the lay-by in order to discourage the activity. And then interestingly, more recently, we had advice from the police that they'd had no incidents for the prior 6 months. The activity seemed to have moved over the road to another area. And we went ahead with an event which did allow all of the courses to run through that section. The police were super helpful, came and parked a marked vehicle in the lay-by at the event start time just to be sure that people were discouraged. And we obviously posted the event here on Saturday notice as well to discourage. Next one, here be live clay pigeon shooting. So our planner had already moved the time of their event to avoid coinciding with the clay pigeon shooting, but the owner of the shooting school phoned a few days before the event to say he had an additional booking and it would now be live all morning. What are we going to do? Okay. Back to what actually happened. We did seriously roll out 2 kilometres of black and yellow tape around the perimeter of that block, because those blocks of forest, if you're lost, it's very, very difficult to know which one you're actually in. But yes, the event went ahead with that mitigation in place. Okay, here be angry bees. So, set of beekeepers. We did know about them because the land permissions mentioned them and said that they wouldn't be present until well after the event. But they turned up early and started whatever it is that beekeepers do to irritate the bees in their hives. And we ended up with large numbers of unhappy bees flying around in an area of the car park, fairly close to registration. Not close enough that people were being stung at the download tent, but sort of people would be passing through in order to get from car park to registration and back again. So this one, I'm guessing the split distribution is the same thought process that we went through, that there are some people in our club who are allergic to bee stings. So what we did, we knew that the people who had declared themselves allergic to bee stings hadn't yet arrived. We sent somebody up to the car park entrance to inform people as they were arriving, firstly so that people knew to avoid the area near the hives, and secondly so that anybody who had a known allergy to bee stings had the option to turn around and leave if that was what they preferred to do. Okay, here's an interesting one. Locked fire exits. Arrived at the event centre for an urban event. Organiser found all but one of the fire exits were locked shut. This is the closest we have ever come to cancelling an event at literally no notice. We did manage to find a set of keys that would allow us to unlock a second exit. If we hadn't been able to find keys that would unlock a second exit, it would have been a cancel. We're then left with 2 exits rather than 3. So we redo the occupancy calculation based on those exit dimensions. Luckily, they are both large fire doors. So we are just about okay with the registered number of competitors and the occupancy level that we're going to end up with. Because we are so close to that limit, we taped out the exit routes on the floor and we policed them all evening to avoid people blocking them with bags or putting chairs in them or using them as a clothing drop, any of the other things. But yeah, I have noticed at quite a lot of orienteering events, people are not mindful of the need to leave emergency exits free, and they end up with clothing dumps against them and all sorts. So it's something I would like to raise awareness of. Okay, next one. We were hosting junior teams from around the country. They'd arrived at the event centre. They were enjoying an evening of football and basketball. Just as it started to get dark, power to the whole site tripped. background you can probably guess is that this is the Peter Palmer relays. Yeah, spread of opinions, because there's a spread of different risks that might be foremost in people's mind here. We've already got 200 plus juniors on the site, so there's not actually a lot we can do about that. Because it's the Peter Palmer relays, however, a significant proportion of the people present did have torches and head torches, but we obviously didn't want to end up with exhausted batteries and juniors out with head torches going dead on them in the dark the next morning. Fortunately, we had several hundred LED tea lights which we'd been intending to use for a magical route to the start the next morning. So they were quickly repurposed in order to light the routes to the toilets, light the areas inside the toilets and bathrooms, and light inside the rooms that were being used as dormitories. The team managers were asked to take their teams back to their individual bases and unpack bedding and so on before daylight disappeared, just in case the outage was going to be prolonged, and then to stay calmly in their own areas. And in fact, power was then successfully restored by the site management team after a couple of hours, and we were able to go ahead. But I was really glad we got the backup of those tea lights, because 200 plus people and stumbling to the toilet in the dark was going to be a bit of a nightmare. Next one, a fly fishing competition. The planner arrived on the morning of the event to find fly fishing competition in full swing on the lakes. Yeah, this one's about just making sure that people stay away, isn't it? So it went ahead. The planner assessed the potential impact on each course, whether any likely route took people within range of people who were casting with fishing rods. The yellow, which went along the path, came way too close to some of the fishing areas. And we put in place a taped route between two controls in order to avoid the path that we didn't want them to take. So the maps were marked up with the taped route, and the competitors were briefed individually at the start about what they were going to need to do. The other courses had no need to be close to the lake, so we just included a warning in the start lanes about not going within fly fishing casting range. Waist deep mud. So heavy rain. This is an event that's in a quarry that's used by 4x4 drivers. The planner discovered an area which had a dried out crust over the top, but if you went through it, it was waist deep in thick slimy mud. Yep, high confidence from everybody there. And there was high confidence from our planners too. Yellow and black tape around the area and a warning in the start lanes. Extreme mountain biking. So planning visit, the planner comes across a new extreme mountain biking area that hadn't been mentioned by the landowner as part of the land permissions. So this is still at the planning stage. Can we work around it? course we can. So they made contact with the organisers of the mountain biking to find out the exact extent of the area that was in use, marked it out of bounds, made sure that the coursers avoided it and didn't have the temptation to go through it, and put warnings at the start. Galloping horses, again during the planning process, the planner found race horses thundering up and down the gallops area, even though the land permission didn't mention any subletting. Yeah, that's the sort of thing we can work around in advance. Contacted the stable owners, agreed timings that made sure that horses and runners were kept separate. I think this is the last one. Here be thunder and lightning, so there's a forecast for electrical storms on the morning of a summer park event. Oh, real split of opinion. No, we had no doubt at all about this. That's a cancel. Can't have kids running around in the open or sheltering under trees in an electrical storm. And the timing of the forecast storms didn't allow for the event to be moved to avoid them. And then as a follow-up to that, this year, we had an unforecast electrical storm at the end of the 2025 YBT final, which we were hosting. Distant rumbles of thunder at the point where almost all the competitors were back, but the prize giving hadn't yet happened. So the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents 30-30 rule says take shelter if the flash to bang time is less than 30 seconds. Don't leave shelter until 30 minutes after the last clap of thunder is heard. 30 seconds flash to bang is about 6 miles. We tracked the storm on the Weatherbug app, and the nearest lightning strikes were about 20 miles away. Obviously, we didn't know which direction it was heading in at that moment. Our event safety plan would have had us hold the starts if there were any competitors not yet started, but there weren't. So what we decided to do was have the commentary PA system, use it to ask teams to take down their tents and be prepared to retreat and sit in cars. And we continued tracking the storm, and it receded further away. So the nearest lightning strikes were now more than 30 miles away, and the prize giving then went ahead without any issues. Okay, that is the end of the presentation. I'm going to leave an extra page that I've got on my Menti open. Just because whilst we've got a captive set of people, we'd like to collect information about what safety topics you'd particularly like BOF to prioritise giving guidance on. So I'm going to hide it away and stop sharing, but it will stay open for the next half hour. So if you've got any ideas of things that you would particularly like, feel free to contribute, and I'll hand back to Joe.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Karen. I very much enjoyed playing along on the Menti slide. I'll call it playing along because it felt rather game show-esque. And then finding out that I was right or wrong on some of them. Yeah, I think it's good to have the lived examples of what happens on the events and also how you took action on that as well. So a huge thank you. We'll now invite questions from the floor whilst you're also typing in your Menti responses as well. If you'd like to pop any questions in the chat, Q&A, or you can use the raise hand function. They can be on primarily on the dynamic risk assessments or on incident reporting and event safety. but we'll also welcome general questions as well on Safety Advisory Group and actions as well. Whilst
And
people are typing,
we'd like to advertise as well that we're still recruiting if anybody would like to join us.
Absolutely, there's so much expertise amongst our members that it's always good to collect as much expertise as we can in one place to make sure that we're providing all the updates that we can, and especially providing guidance on some of these topics that I'm sure some of you are typing into Menti as we speak. So I'll start with a question that was asked by two people that went into the chat during your session, Karen, which is, how do you work out an occupancy calculation?
There is a health and safety at work HSE method for doing it. What we need to do is get that available on the BOF as part of the BOF guidance.
Yeah, so that's something that we can look to add into it.
Normally you just ask the person who is hiring you the indoor space what the occupancy is, and they should know the answer. But yes, for circumstances like that one, it was very useful to know how it was actually calculated.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Karen. And do we have any more questions from the floor? I'll give you all a minute anyway, because we've tasked you with asking in the chat and also typing on Menti as well.
Yeah, the Menti will stay open for another half an hour after the end of the session, so prioritise talking to us now if you want to.
Alison's asking, oh yeah, go
Miss
on,
whether the hall was part of the course or just the assembly. It was the assembly area.
Maybe a stunned silence, or people still typing in answers. In that case, I'll start to wrap things up, and if anything pops in the chat as we go, I'll whiz back and answer it. So a huge thank you to both Karen and Tim for the presentations. And there we go. Lynn has popped one in now, so brilliant. I can go back to that question. Lynn's asked, while one person makes the final decision regarding the call to go ahead / not, what would you recommend regarding discussion about it?
We would have all the event officials involved in that discussion, but it's the organizer who makes the final call.
Yeah.
And often we involve more than, so for example, I'm the club safety officer. I get phoned up, people saying, what do you think? We think we maybe need to cancel.
Brilliant. Thank you, Karen. So yes, a huge thank you again, Karen and Tim, and a huge thank you everybody this evening for attending, and also for the very high uptake on the Menti. If you did enjoy that, I'm sure we could see a bit more of Menti being used in the future, because I quite enjoyed it myself. So I'll have to get learning how I can incorporate it a bit more. Just a little bit of a plug for the next session. We have it tomorrow, which is my favorite long session name. Creating engaging experiences beyond the event, crafting experiences that captivate, with the British Orienteering's partnerships manager, Kay Hawke, presenting. And we do have another question in there, which is why I'm weaving this in nicely.
Should stairs on urban courses be single direction of travel? That might depend on whether they are narrow staircases or wide staircases. I can certainly think of some where I wouldn't like people to be going in both directions at once, but then are others. We've got some in Brighton on the Brighton City Race where they're about 10 yards wide, and I can't see any reason at all why they can't go up and down at the same time. Tim?
Well, I've asked the question. I asked it mainly because I think the Glasgow City Race last year, the early stages of it had a lot of going up and down stairs. And what became apparent was that some people could move up and downstairs an awful lot faster than others, but a lot of controls, you went down the stairs and turned around and came straight back up.
Right.
And there was a lot of sort of dodging going on the stairs as well.
Yeah, that sounds
I
like
don't-
there could have been a better flow through from
Yeah, nobody was hurt, but
from a fairness point of view as well as from a safety point of view.
yes.
Sounds like an excellent example of a near miss to report on the incident reporting system.
Yep.
Bit of a shameless plug, but so I will wrap things up now fully. But if you do have any questions, then please feel free to get in touch with any of us, myself, Karen, and Tim. We can either we can bring any actions to the safety advisory group or any questions as well for discussion. And I'm sure that we'll have a few answers from the mentee as well to discuss at the next meeting. As Karen said,
There's a safety@BOF email address now, isn't there?
yes, there is, and that should ping through correctly. Thank you for the reminder. So that will be safety@British Orienteering .org.uk. .co.uk. It's good that I don't know my own email address. But yes, I can confirm that that is a .co.uk. I can. So yes, we can. No, it is a .org. I apologise. I committed too early, and I'll edit this out as well in the video so I don't make myself look silly. A huge thank you again for all attending this evening. All things safety @BritishOrienteering.org.uk, or myself, Karen, and Tim directly. Thank you all for coming and engaging. It was really good to see so many of you here, all in the name of safety, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you very much.